behalf of the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, Adult and Family Education, and our professional development partner, the University of the District of Columbia, we welcome you to our FY24-25 Mini Professional Development Institute on Integrated Education Training plus Digital Skills equals student success in life and careers. You can find the full schedule of events as well as the resources and information about our facilitators on the OSSE website at osse.dc.gov. We will be posting the handouts and the webinar recordings each day on the webclip. I'm sorry. And then about 1 week after the Institute finishes, we will post them on the OSSE website. You can also find our past Institute webinars there too. So just so you're aware, there will be a participant contact survey link placed in the chat. We will also place in the chat the link to the webpage for the DC24 Mini PD schedule of events and descriptions. And for the wakelets will be posted on that site along with the handouts for all the December 2024 Mini PD Institutes. This afternoon session will focus on unlearning with a learner management system. It is with pleasure that we now turn over the session to our facilitators, the World Education team. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Okay, Teams gave me a notification there. Everyone just let me know in the chat, can you hear me okay? And can you see my slides? And how are you? And what's your name? And where do you work? Put all of that in there. I would love to know. Yeah, okay, I got a thumbs up. Thanks for that. We are excited to talk today about LMSs and I'll talk about the agenda in a minute, but we're going to basically just talk about some selection considerations and then also some considerations for implementation of an LMS. And so let's get started. These are some of the topics we'll cover. What is an LMS? So we're going to define that. And how are they used in adult ed? We'll go through some different scenarios of why adult education practitioners might choose to use an LMS and then how they go about making that choice. So that's that third question there. And then even number 4, so you've chosen an LMS and now what? I want to know in the chat, you guys, which number, 1, 2, 3, 4 here on my screen, best describes the question that brought you to today's session. So are you looking to know what is an LMS? That would be number 1, just generally. Are you looking to know how it applies in adult education? Okay, I'm seeing some answers come in. How to choose, or then you've chosen and now what? So we've got 2, 3, 2 and 4, 3, 3 and 4, 2 and 4. Excellent. That means I'll speed through number 1 because not a lot of people are interested in that one. That's good. That's why we run these polls, right? Actionable insights. Okay, so a little bit about our team today. We are not joined, unfortunately, we're not joined by Ebony Vandross because she got called to jury duty. But Ebony is our amazing e-learning coordinator. She's an absolute expert in different LMSs because she manages them for our global nonprofit organization. So she's a great source of knowledge and she contributed a lot to today's session, but unfortunately wasn't able to be here to facilitate. I am Rachel Riggs. I'm a technical advisor at World Education, and I do a lot of work for our Ed Tech Center, which is a center of expertise that focuses on the integration of educational technology. And I also lead our AI for Learning and Work initiative. So if you're going to be around for tomorrow's sessions at the PD Institute, I will be doing one on AI, and I hope you can join. And then my colleague, Jerry.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Well, it's still morning here. I'm in Sacramento, California, but great to be with you. Looking forward to the session. I am a senior technical advisor. I work with the the EdTech Center, and I also do a lot of work with the IDEAL Consortium, which you may have heard of, doing professional development, technical assistance, and also work a lot in the, of course, EdTech and instructional technology and digital equity and inclusion spaces. So definitely happy to be here, and yeah, back to you.
Thanks, Jerry. So what's an LMS? Like I said, I'll go through this fast because there's not a lot of interest here, but it is helpful, I think, to focus on the 3 words that comprise this acronym as a core definition of an LMS. So an LMS is a learning management system, or sometimes it's referred to as a learner management system. And all LMS vary in their different features and functions, but they do serve this core purpose of being a system that manages learning. So in terms of learning, there's a lot of ways that you can create, manage, and deliver educational content on an LMS. And they provide an easy, hopefully, and user-friendly path to connect learners with that learning. Management, there are lots of management features within an LMS that help you organize courses, track learner progress, and gather and analyze data to inform learning. Lots of management features in terms of enrollment, creating learning pathways, and so forth. So they also help manage that learning aspect. And then they are systems, which is really crucial when you think about should I use an LMS, or which LMS should I use? It's important to recognize that an LMS is a really robust system. It can be used within a single classroom, but it can also be something that connects a lot of institutions, a lot of different learners, a lot of learning pathways. So we can think of it as kind of a backbone for digital learning, and the way that tendrils go out from that backbone. And LMS use can be, as we've seen in some of our projects, nationwide. It can be statewide. It can be within a department, or it can be within a specific classroom. And these were the fun little icons that I had planned for that slide, but I didn't click through them. Now you see them. So some benefits to using an LMS. There are a range of benefits. We can think about benefits for learners, benefits for programs, benefits for curriculum developers. I would love for you guys to put in the chat what benefits you think there are, or what benefits you've personally experienced. I think some of the core ones for adult education is managing and reusing course content, right? So we know that the resources that we have in adult education are precious, and the ability to have them all in one place, to transfer them from one instructor to another, to reuse them from one kind of enrollment period to another, that's a great benefit. They also enable us to set out clear learning pathways for learners. So we also know a really important aspect of adult learning is to have a really clear pathway and even some reward points along that pathway to stay engaged and to persist. And LMSs can help us facilitate that. And then finally, empowering learners with skills and credentials, obviously. Every technology that we use in learning should be for the ultimate purpose of getting learners more learning experiences. And LMSs can help with that, not just in terms of content delivery, but in terms of robust assessment and tracking, being able to stack up scores and have a grade book, and then even have, an endpoint credential that comes from the completion of a certain course. So these are just some of the benefits as specific to adult learning in particular. And I'm checking in the chat to see what you have added. Great. And Conchita added that updating case notes for learners. So yes, just having a place where you can see specific to a learner, what are some touch points we've had, or advice we've given. That's a great one. Managing course material, Andre says. Yeah, totally. So these are some benefits. There are a lot of different benefits depending on what you're looking for. And so you guys have shared, and I want to give one more opportunity. Does anybody else want to share from your perspective the benefits of an LMS? What do you think they have to offer? Even if you've never used one before, there's a reason you came today. And so what are you hoping to get out of an LMS? I'm giving that precious waiting time. Okay, great. Accessible from cell phones. Some, yes. Tracking which courses are used the most to better focus. Aha, great one. To better focus direction of materials. Yes, that's another great one. You can see a lot of usage data, and even within that, even at the course level, yes, even at the material level, you can see engagement sometimes. So it's really helpful as a way of auditing and continuously improving your courses. Okay, good idea. Jamie's saying we don't use grades much in our program. That was my experience in adult ed too. We didn't really give grades, but it is a good way to get student data and student info into one place for your program. And even if you don't use grades, you know, teachers probably informally do anyway, just to track learners, right, and see their progress. Two-way communication is another great one, and accessibility and flexibility for using different instructional modalities, and that's critical. Thanks, Yvette. Right, so an LMS helps us deliver a really high quality blended learning experience because we have that online course content all in one place, and that can serve kind of as a digital homeroom. So yes, definitely helps us expand our offerings in terms of modality, and then helps us expand access to learning for learners that might need an asynchronous option. Okay, so this is the section that Ebony so generously put together for us, exploring some of the case scenarios where an LMS is needed and how different roles might choose an LMS. So it depends on really who's making the decision to get an LMS and what they're using the LMS for in terms of, it could be in terms of subject matter, although LMS can be flexible to be used across all different subject matters. But certainly, yes, just the goals of incorporating an LMS. We put together this table of some popular options, starting with Google Classroom, then Canvas, Schoology, and Blackboard. So Google Classroom is great because it's free and it's fully integrated with the Google Workspace. It's very user-friendly. And it has some drawbacks. It's not, some people would say Google Classroom is not even an LMS because it's not as robust in the different analytics and administrative features that it has. And even in course building and material building within that. It obviously relies heavily on Google. So for systems that don't use Google, it may not be the best choice. All of these have strengths and weaknesses. There's really no right option, but we wanted to just illustrate some common options and the strengths and weaknesses within. So I'm wondering, oh, good one, Jamie. I'm just catching Jamie's comment that using an LMS can also help build digital literacy skills. And that is really important to call out, especially if we want learners to transition into a job that uses an HRMIS or uses an HR platform that might deliver learning, or if they're going to transition into more coursework in higher education where they will definitely be using an LMS. It's a good way to give that foundation of digital skills for those transitions. Absolutely. Okay, so I was wondering, yes, can you guys also put in the chat as I'm talking about these, have you used them and what have you found, right? This is our list of strengths and weaknesses. You may have encountered something even more specific with these different platforms. So definitely sound off in the chat. As you can see, I like all your input. I like hearing from all of you. So let us know what you've used and what strengths and weaknesses you found. So the second one is Canvas. Canvas is very popular. In fact, over the last year, we've seen a lot of adult education departments and programs transitioning to Canvas. So interestingly, they made choices during the pandemic and we're seeing a big kind of movement toward Canvas. So they're seeing a lot of value in Canvas. The good things about Canvas, it's really customizable. It's more suited, I would say, for like large institutions, although you can use it at just a program level. It's more, I would say, just this is subjective, modern looking and seamless in comparison with something like Blackboard, which is a little bit outdated looking to me. And there's within that a premium cost that comes with Canvas and maybe a steeper learning curve. Then there's Schoology. Schoology, a lot of adult education programs use, even though it is, they cater and market definitely toward K-12, but it has a lot of the same features as other LMSs, lots of collaborative tools, integrated gradebooks. They integrate with other companies really well, like College Board and stuff. So kind of to give that seamless experience to K-12 learners, but could also be a benefit for adult education as well. It's mobile friendly. And then there's Blackboard, and this is one that's obviously been around for a long time. So it has a long-standing reputation. It's very, very comprehensive. But like I said, might be a little bit outdated. The comprehensiveness of it also lends to a certain complexity, so it's not always the most user-friendly. But those are just some pros and cons to these different ones. And okay, I don't see anything there about what you guys have used, but feel free to chime in at any time. So let's go through a few different scenarios specific to adult ed. In scenario 1, we have an ESOL instructor looking for a user-friendly platform for organizing materials and assignments for adult learners with limited technology experience. What do you think? Which LMS would be suited for this ESOL instructor based on the 4 options that we just went through? Again, no right or wrong answer. What would you advise them toward or suggest to them? Google Classroom, Canvas, Schoology, or Blackboard? Okay, I'm getting some Google Classroom responses. When I was an ESOL instructor, I used Google Classroom. And that is what this instructor chose, Google Classroom, because Google Classroom enables them to post simple assignments like vocabulary lists, reading exercises, and video links directly from YouTube because it's a Google product. And Google Docs and Google Forms is what the teacher uses for writing exercise and quizzes. And the teacher likes that students can submit audio recordings for speaking practice. They ruled out Canvas because it was too advanced and all of those detailed features might have been overwhelming for their learners. They ruled out Schoology, even though it offers interactive tools, but it's also complex and might distract ESOL students from the core language tasks. And they ruled out Blackboard, also finding that that's too complex and that Google Classroom's simple and familiar interface is better for students learning English with basic tech skills. So again, this is all hypothetical, and we're not saying there's a right or wrong answer. We're just trying to give you some scenarios to help you think about how these different LMSs might play out in different scenarios. So in scenario 2, a program director must select an LMS for a blended GED prep course for learners with diverse needs. The course includes blended components, high-level assessments, and tech skills with the ultimate goal of being cost-effective and suitable for beginner to intermediate students. So thinking about that, program director, LMS for blended GED prep, what would you choose, or what would you advise this person to choose? Okay, Mary is sharing. Thank you, Mary, for sharing your personal experience. Mary says that they love Canvas for adult IT training programs because it excels in diverse learning environments, provides tools for synchronous and asynchronous, and is very versatile with comprehensive analytical tools. Thanks. And then Conchita is saying Blackboard. So let's see, this director chose Canvas for its modular design, robust grading, and mid-range cost. Teachers, IT team, students, and financial officer consulted to ensure compatibility, technical support, and budget alignment for the GED prep course. So that's critical, and that's something we're going to talk about in a minute, but I want you to think about that consultation among different stakeholders is really important. So they ruled out Google Classroom because it was too simple without those advanced grading tools and secure testing features, ruled out Schoology because it didn't have the robust module-based structure and analytics, and ruled out Blackboard because the IT team and budget manager favored Canvas because of its simpler, advanced solution for learners' tech proficiency. Scenario 3, a curriculum developer is creating health literacy courses for adult learners, combining in-person workshops with online resources. They require an LMS that supports interactive content, mobile access, and flexible communication. So what do you think? What would you advise them to do? Okay, we have some Schoology mentions here. Let us see. The curriculum developer chose Schoology for its mobile-friendly platform, interactivity. It has tools for live polls, quizzes, discussion boards, and integrates well with third-party tools. They rolled out Google Classroom because there wasn't enough interactive content and real-time engagement features. They ruled out Canvas because of it wasn't going to be suitable for this interactive workshop style approach. And they ruled out Blackboard because the security and features were not justified for the courses that prioritize accessibility and engagement over those more formal high stakes assessments that Blackboard enables. Okay, so final scenario here, scenario 4. I bet by process of elimination, you'd probably be able to guess which one this person chose. But we have an adult basic education instructor, so we have an AV instructor that needs a secure platform for teaching digital literacy skills for workplace readiness and daily tasks. And it needs to include live sessions, interactive assignments, and assessments showcasing real-world digital challenges. What's your guess here? Oops, no, I advanced too quickly. What do you think? This instructor chose Blackboard because they have the virtual live sessions, the interactive modules, assignments, and assessments, and it's a very secure environment with comprehensive analytics to monitor students' skill development. Others were ruled out. Google Classroom didn't have the robust grading. Canvas didn't have the secure testing and formal structure, and Schoology lacked the advanced testing tools and analytics. So thinking about these different considerations in each scenario, you may have noticed some themes, like thinking about the ease of use. So there was some talk about like the students' tech proficiency and tech skills, and how the complexity of the interface of different tools. So ease of use is an important consideration. Content flexibility, your ability to deliver content in different modalities, and different types of media, engagement and interactivity. So how are you facilitating the courses and the content? And do you need something that's going to provide for you a live option for class meetings and interactivity within that? Tracking and reporting capabilities, cost and technical support, a good thing to sync up with others like IT or budget managers on that aspect. Customization options. So how much can you customize what students see, for example, in a menu on a certain page? That is, I think, really critical in adult education because some of these will enable you to really simplify what they're seeing so that they have a really clear pathway to the content, whereas others don't have that option. So they're going to get a lot of different options and it can be confusing. So that's a really critical one, I think, for us. Comprehensive tracking tools. So what are you looking for in terms of tracking learners, tracking their progress, and possibly even tracking them across different classes and into different programs? And that will influence your option that you go with. And finally, reliable technical support. from the company, I think, and then also within your program who can support on an ongoing basis any instructor needs. So just checking back in the chat. We have developed in our various projects where we field test ed tech tools, we've developed these tool evaluation criteria. This tool evaluation criteria is applicable to any ed tech tool, so it's really not specific to an LMS, but it's still helpful when you're thinking about an LMS. The criteria are effectiveness, accessibility, affordability, user experience, user support, and data privacy and protection, as well as longevity of the tool, or rather the vendor that's selling the tool. So these are some things that you can consider with any ed tech tool. I'll put the link to the criteria in the chat. Where was I? Sorry, you guys, I have to like toggle back to the chat. Here we go. And you can feel free to explore that anytime that you're choosing an ed tech tool. But I want to show a couple examples of what these criteria look like when we're talking about different LMSs. So first, is the tool accessible? What we know is that a lot of adults are smartphone dependent. So I think it's really critical to think about which of these tools are the most mobile friendly for learners. Now, Canvas and Blackboard, if you just do a very basic search and look at reviews of the Canvas and Blackboard mobile apps, they have higher reviews than the others. But it's really important, I think, when you're vetting different LMSs to go and look at those reviews and really think about what is going to be good for the learners. And even when you're talking to vendors, have them show you what the mobile experience is like. And another really critical thing is when we talk about accessibility, integration with other apps. And so we know a lot of adult education programs did a big push toward getting students Google accounts so that they could learn more about email and Gmail. So Google Classroom, if you're thinking about accessibility in those terms, might be a good option because it's some students already have Google accounts, and therefore all of the documents you create in a Google Classroom are in a Google Drive. They're created using Google Docs, Google Slides. So you can just see that all of that integration supports accessibility and ease of use for learners. So just two things to think about: mobile friendliness and then integration with other apps that learners use. And then affordable is really critical, obviously, within adult education and just in general. There are typically a couple of different models for LMSs. So some of them are free. Google Classroom is free, so Google Classroom is free, and then others have, like Schoology has a free option. So when you have no cost, in the case of Google Classroom, it's just free. There are no additional features that you're missing out on. But in some companies, it's a freemium. So when you access it for free, you are getting limited features, but when you pay the premium, you're getting better features, essentially. Another model is per learner per use, where you're charged, as that says, like per learner per use. There's a per learner per month model, and then there's just an outright license. So it's an agreement ahead of time, and you have a certain amount of use and users that you can have on the LMS. Another thing is longevity. And when we think about longevity in adult ed, it's not just can the learner use this LMS in my classroom through the duration of my class, but we should also think about, is my learner going to be able to use this in other classes in our program when they transfer into their next step? Because we know adult ed is usually kind of that medium transition period into other goals that learners have. Is it going to be something that they, now being familiar, can transfer their skills into other programs of learning or work, or even supporting their kids at their school? So Yeah, so will it last? And then also thinking about a lot of these have really similar features and functions. And so there is that once I get comfortable, for example, in Schoology, I can transfer those skills over to Google Classroom, but really thinking about longevity in terms of not just within your program and in your program of instruction, but also in the learner's learning journey. So I encourage you guys to work as a team if you're still in this process of vetting different LMS options. Work as a team. You can use our scoring rubric or our comparison tool. I'll just open that up and show it real quick. This is free. It's openly licensed, so you can make your own copy of this and adapt it to your needs. And what it enables you to do is you can either score different tools according to the criteria, or you can use the note-taking and comparison tool. This has more detailed questions for each criterion. And if you enter the names of the different options up here, then you can take notes about how these different options measure up to these different questions. So let me get you the link to that in the chat. And like I said, it should be really a team effort whenever possible. There you go. Oh, did Cynthia do that already? Thanks. Ultimately, we encourage you to keep humans at the center of all of your technology integration. So really think about how your LMS will work for the learners in your programs, not just the learners, but definitely also the teachers. And what is the human role in all of that as well? So you can go and you can look at all the LMSs and you can make the perfect selection according to all of the tool evaluation criteria in the world. But it's not just about the tool, right? It's also about how we are using it. There's a lot of design consideration that goes into building a course in an LMS that definitely goes beyond just selecting the tool, but then how to implement it. And I think that's a great transition over to Jerry, who's going to talk about some of those design considerations.
Thank you, Rachel. Let's see if I can get this. I'm not super familiar with what is this? Teams? So let me get that going here. Okay. Boom, boom, boom.
Jerry, while you're working on, oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go ahead.
Yeah, we see kind of a funky shape though.
Oh, okay.
It's like this. It's like portrait. Oh yeah, that's helping.
Does this change it? Okay, yeah, I'm in like different windows here, so okay. Just want to make sure I can get through this. Okay, so is that okay? Is that good? I mean, is that going to work? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So kind of building on this, when we think about using an LMS, I kind of want to take it back to like a sort of a more of like a bird's eye view of how this might be used in a couple of ways. Programmatically, in the sense of like how you might administer this at those different levels. Rachel mentioned sort of like, state level, district or agency, all the way down to classroom levels. There's all these considerations that exist within those different levels. So look at that, and then also, what are you going to do with it, right? And like what does that look like from a academic perspective, right? Like how are we going to how are we using this with our learners? Okay. And so the first one, so take a look at like state level, right? So this might be coming down from some states have adopted an LMS that they are promoting for throughout the state. And so at that level, you have whoever the owner is, or whoever the program administrator is, whoever sort of is running that. You got your technical administrators, and I would say that would align more with IT. And then instructional administrators, that might be more of a like an academic, superintendent or curriculum instruction, that sort of angle. And then you have your support staff, so IT tech, IT support, instructional support, maybe ed tech coaches, something like that. So that might be at that main state level. When you think about the district level, similar roles, but a different sort of level, because they're going to have their own iteration, right? Or their own instance of the LMS potentially. And so you're going to have those same types of administrators. Again, you want to consider what the technical support looks like, the IT support, what the instructional support, those tech coaches, instructional technology coaches, whatever that might look like. And then professional development. So we want to make sure that everyone understands how to use it, as well as not just that technical side, but again the academic side too, right? Like we want to help instructors and any practitioners really understand how to design content, how to build that out for their own programs. At the agency level, this would be, at the school site level, you're going to have likely another administrator for that instance. Considering who might work on roster management, so you think about who runs your student information system, because oftentimes these will integrate with those, so that you can sync those up. I'm not sure if anyone is using any of those tools. Actually, I'd be interested if you want to put in the chat. If you're using an LMS, are any of these features integrated right now? And the student information systems, if you're using any other tools like Clever, for instance, I haven't seen a whole lot of that used in adult ed, but if you have or know kids in school, a lot of them are using tools like Clever for single sign-ons to get into all the different platforms that the school might be using. So I'd love to know if you guys are using any of these tools, because they all can work together. So, again, this will be a consideration that you want to make when thinking about integrating, or if you haven't chosen one, or you're thinking about it, or you want to integrate, or at that level, all of these tools that can help automate or help you make that experience more efficient for everyone, not just on the agency side, but also on the student side, helping them get into the platform easier, more seamlessly. And then you're going to think about the technical support, instructor support, the PD. And then the users, this is going to be the learners, right? And so what considerations will you have to make for them? You're thinking about how to use this or which tool to use. Rachel mentioned some things to think about, right? Like, workforce or college transition, right? If the district is using, or let's say the community college district or local university is using a certain LMS, a lot of programs might want to adopt that same one so that the transition is smoother for them, right? And so again, another consideration there. And then the classroom, we want to think about who's using this at that level. Teachers and students are the main stakeholders there, and what kind of supports are we offering them. I did. I'm kind of splitting the screen, so I didn't know if there was anything in the chat.
Yeah, Jamie mentioned that unfortunately, because of the needs of their SIS, they cannot integrate into Google Classroom or Schoology. And someone also said that's similar for them. And then Jamie says they end up having dual systems, and SIS and Google Admin.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Google Classroom doesn't support that because, you know, the limitations that were mentioned. I think that, so, you know, often, and I don't even know if Google themselves call Classroom an LMS. I think they call it something else, like a learner experience or something like that. I think they made up their own term. But yeah, that won't really sync up as far as the rostering. I know that, you know, in my experience, Canvas worked really well in that regard, syncing up with SIS. So, you know, that might be a consideration if that's something that you want to have as a service, right? Like as streamlining that process, and especially if you want to bring in that single sign-on using a tool like Clever or something like that too. So, yeah. The second part of this is, so those like programmatic considerations is sort of like that instructional considerations. How do we use this in the best way to connect with learners in distance and digital education models? I noticed on the program that yesterday there was a presenter that talked about community of inquiry, and quick show of hands if anyone was able to attend that session. I wish I could have. Anyone? Oh, yeah, again, I can't see that one. So if you did, I mean, I hope this kind of connects a little bit with that, because community of inquiry is really helpful, I think, in sort of framing how to design for an online environment. Okay, there's three sort of domains of the community of inquiry, and those are in terms of presences. So we talk about cognitive presence, social presence, and teaching presence within online learning environments. So we'll go through each of these and kind of like walk through a little bit, and then talk about some best practices that you might want to consider. It's a collaborative process, and that learning occurs when the interaction starts to happen with those three domains: the cognitive, the social, and the teaching. Again, commonly used in online and distance learning. And the key participants are not just the students, it's the teachers as well. And that's really emphasized by the fact that there is a whole domain for teaching presence. So just want to go through each of them so that, you know, in case you're not super familiar with this, that you understand these different presences and kind of what makes up those elements of that presence. So cognitive presence is a cyclical process, and this is helping learners construct meaning through critical thinking and inquiry-based activities. And that is made up, cognitive presence is made up of 4 elements itself. So there's a triggering event, then there's exploration, integration, and resolution. So that first event, that first element, the triggering event, is when an issue or a problem is identified for further inquiry. So right away, I think we start to think about, well, how do I design content for that, right? It's not just a, a reading or something like that necessarily, but it's that bringing up of a topic of something that warrants that further investigation that would motivate a learner to start the next steps, which go into exploration. That's where they explore the issue and then work together in that community, starting to build that community. And we want to think about this within the LMS, right? Like the community is going to be on there, right? It's in the LMS. They're building it through there. So that's through reflection and discourse, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Integration, that's where the learners start to construct the meanings that they're discovering. And then the final piece is resolution, where they start to apply that new knowledge. Second one is social presence, and that I think is really, really important because that's where you start to establish that sense of community, and really, I think where learners, based on really the modeling of the instructor, is able to bring their whole selves to the community, right, in an online environment, and communicate openly, build relationships in an online setting. Those three elements are effective expression, open communication, and group cohesion. So that first one, effective expression, that's about the ability of online learners to project themselves through text-based language. Is kind of the sum of it, and really like in a human way, right? Like natural way that they are able to sort of come through on text as they might do in person. The open communication means that it's a safe space, basically, that there's no risk for them to participate. They feel comfortable. It's welcoming. And the group cohesion is, again, where that groups start to become that community rather than just a bunch of individuals. And they start to collaborate meaningfully. And then teaching presence, this is where it kind of all comes together, where this domain really supports the other two. And this is about the design, discourse, facilitation, organization, and direct instruction that the instructor brings to the community. Those components are instructional design and organization, facilitation of discourse, and the direct instruction. So that first piece, instructional design, is the structure and the processes and kind of the whole, really the infrastructure of the course that they're designing. Facilitation of discourse, this is building within that infrastructure a way for the learners to engage. And then direct instruction is not necessarily you have to make design lectures or whatever, like as that sort of sage on the stage, as they like to say, but more about providing leadership in that learning environment. Okay, so those are the three presences and the elements. So some of the tips, best practices for fostering these presences. With the cognitive presence, when we talked about, remember the one that started with that triggering event, and then the exploration, integration, resolution. Some of these best practices are looking at project or problem-based learning, right? Designing with that in mind to start off that triggering event, right? That there is something worth inquiring about. Designing opportunities for reflection and discourse, and this could, include learner-led instruction that they have started to learn about this topic and then really solidifying that by turning around and sort of reteaching that content. Peer review is a good one. And also e-portfolios, and that can be those can be used as evidence of learning, a collection of work, but also you can use that in ways for assessment along the way, either formative and or summative. Okay, social presence. Tips here, number one, and that is number one, I think, for reasons that the instructor really should be modeling that digital citizenship piece. They're designing something in the LMS. My philosophy is I don't want to ask my learners to do anything that I wouldn't do. So if I'm going to ask them to do a video, I'm going to have my video up first. If I'm going to ask them to respond to a prompt, I will have my own response to that, or I would model a strong example, right, of what I was looking for in that activity. When I talked about social presence being a way that the learners are feeling comfortable and bringing their whole selves to the environment, one way is to encourage your learners to create or update their online profiles, right? So in an LMS, many of them, you're able to upload your own photo, instead of using the avatars or, having your initials there. Having something that is a system that's accessible, that has features like, using pronouns, locations, bios, things like that are really important for people to feel included, right? And that they feel comfortable being there and that they're able to represent themselves. Create and use accessible and inclusive content. This is not just about compliance. It's not just about alt text or closed captioning or anything, but also about making sure that you're intentional about the content being something where learners are going to be able to see themselves in that, that they can relate to that, that it is bringing everyone into the conversation. Discussion forums are a great way to build up the social presence. And then making sure that not everything is a high stakes activity, right? Having some low stakes activity where people, it's really easy, barriers low to, getting in, and they can just start to participate, and that can build. And then the last one is teaching presence. Kind of mentioned this earlier, but a welcome video is a great way, especially if you don't connect with your learners right away. If they're you haven't met them or they're getting placed, that they are able to start to access you as the instructor, or the content within there, so that they really understand what's going on, and they start to you can start to build rapport without actually even meeting yet. A liquid syllabus, whole other topic, but if you're familiar with that, that's a great way, especially because that starts sort of outside the LMS and helps them get into it. Thinking more intentionally about instructional design, giving and accepting feedback is huge. Being an active participant in the community, not just posting or creating the environment and then sort of sitting back, but really being involved and putting out regular communication. And then making sure that the learning opportunities are authentic, that you're giving the learners choice, whether that's in what they're doing or how they present it, which will lead to them taking more ownership and giving them some voice. Bringing that together, many of you may be familiar with sort of the blended learning format, or this models of like synchronous and asynchronous learning, and bringing those together into an integrated learning experience. When we add in community of inquiry, we sort of, I think, add more substance to that model. And so we can consider now all of these things, teaching social and cognitive presences, and how those might fit with synchronous or asynchronous activities as you start to build that learner experience in your distance or digital learning programs. So that was a lot, I know, in a very short amount of time, but that is my part.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jerry. And I wonder if anybody has any questions at this point. Jerry, could you actually just pop up the last slide, because that has our contact information. Another thing I wanted to share with you guys is this, because I see some of the comments in the chat about social presence, and we've had adult educators contribute ed tech routines to this toolkit that I just shared. And there are a lot of ed tech routines in there that are around building community. So if you go to that link that I put in the chat, and you can click show full screen, or you can use it on your phone, but you can go to integrations and instructional routines. And within that, you can select from different lesson phases. So maybe respond and create is relevant to the conversation we're having here. And it'll just give you some different ideas for how to use different ed tech tools to get learners responding and creating in different ways. So just a little, what you guys were talking about reminded me of that, and I wanted to share that resource as well. Any other questions for Jerry or myself? I really liked Jamie's comment. Check that out.
I just want to say real quick about Jamie's comment, the earlier one. Yeah, Garrison is the main kind of the I don't know what you would call that, founding father of the community of inquiry. So yeah, definitely there's credit due there. And it has been written about consistently since the emergence of this. I want to say that was probably 2000 or 2001 when that kind of started. Oh, and I noticed my camera was off. Sorry about that.
We also have some resources, Jerry, and Rachel, thank you so much. We have some resources. I was having a hard time, I can't put it in the chat, but we develop a lesson planning and classroom observation that includes information about the COI, has it embedded within the lesson planning and classroom observation review checklists and rubrics. And we'll make sure we share those pieces for those of you who are interested in receiving that information. But thank you so much for, you guys really complimented a lot of the work we've been doing on the community of inquiry over the past year and a half or so. So thanks for sharing these additional resources.
And Michelle, we would love to see how you guys have integrated community of inquiry into those classroom observation rubrics. I think that would be really interesting if you're willing to share.
Sure, definitely. I put it in the chat yesterday, but I don't know why I'm having a hard time with it. But we'll definitely get it to you all. Not sure why my chat, my upload feature isn't working again. But thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thanks for your time, and definitely reach out to us if you have any other questions. I hope you really enjoy all the sessions at the PD Institute. I looked at the agenda and I was like, Stacy, send me all the links. I want to try to go to these. So enjoy your learning time, and thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks everyone.
Bye.
Cynthia's next. I'm sorry, Cynthia.
Thanks, Rachel and Jerry. I would like to thank you all for joining and participating in session number 4. The last 2 days of professional development has been amazing and informative. And we have a training evaluation that we would love for you to complete. And it's really, really quickly. So please complete the evaluation. And I have a question. Why should you complete the evaluation? Is that what you're thinking right now? You should complete the evaluation so we can hear you. Don't you want to be heard? Of course you do. So let us hear your voice via the training evaluation form. And so completing the evaluation will allow us, the AFE and UDC teams, to consider your feedback when planning future professional development. It would also allow us to gather insight on how we can best support you during your journey. We truly value your feedback, and please know that it's greatly appreciated. And the training evaluation link is in the chat. I will now turn it over to Stacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, everyone. Yes, and please know that these sessions are for all DC providers and partners. So share the announcement with your network. And once we share out all of the recordings and everything, you're free to share that with your entire teams and partners. Please join us tomorrow. We'll be meeting at 12 p.m. tomorrow instead of 10 a.m. to accommodate our California presenters. And then again at 2. So tomorrow we'll have innovative tech tools for integrated education and training that anyone can use. And then that's at 12 p.m. tomorrow. And at 2 p.m. tomorrow, Rachel Riggs will be back with us for AI, hashtag AI for Adult Ed, what it means to teach with and for AI. So please come back and see us tomorrow. It was great to have you today.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you all again.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.